the man has got many ideas, the dynamic, and I'm loving this conversation. So we thought we'd start this next section on the left and right paradigm. Now, I think it was Rachel, a mutual friend of ours, beautifully explained the right and left paradigm as two wings of the same bird.
Yeah.
Now, with that, I'm going to pass that over to you, because that's a beautiful way of putting it.
That's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, essentially everything, every issue that's brought up or every controversy, there's always a one side or another. Which side of the fence he's sitting on. The left-right paradigm doesn't really exist, but the tribal nature of humans means that we're told if option A or option B, on whether it's be Coke, Pepsi, Labour, Conservative, whatever the case is.
Sports, TV programmes.
Man City, Man U, whatever the case is. It's always segregated into 9 times out of 10 into option 1 or 2. That can't continue to happen. In voting terms, the vast majority, over 80%, vote centre left to centre right. Now, if you're pushing socialism on the left, and you have UKIP and For Britain, for example, on the far right, who's representing those 82% of people?
In the middle, yeah.
And that's where we're completely different. We must get out of this sort of which box are you in, and think a lot differently. We must think outside of the box. We must get to the fundamental core of whatever the argument or issue is, understand it to then find the solution. You start listening to the narratives and listening to typical.
Yeah, it's always the way, isn't it? It's always the way. It's always the way. I'm surprised I've not had a phone call yet off the missus. Where are you? I was expecting you back an hour ago. So yeah, where was we, mate? In terms of the left-right paradigm, in terms of tribalism.
No.
They're playing on our tribalistic nature, aren't they? That's what they're doing with the left-right paradigm. That's what I feel they're doing. Pumping a little bit of social engineering once they've got that tribalism in place. And boom, there's your population controlled.
Yeah,
quite easy.
You're giving them 2 false choices. There's no third option, or a fourth or fifth option. And that's what we must move away from. Where there's no secret whether it be establishment Labour, Conservative, or some far left radical Communist Party, or the far right UKIP, or whatever. There's a reason why none of them, not one, tell you about the government waste in our country. Essentially 170 billion, which is about 22% of all government spending, is wasted through inefficiency, which is see the European Central Bank report 2015, Taxpayers Alliance reports in 2012 and 2014, the numerous Independent, Guardian, Express, Mail, everywhere. There's been all these exposés on the enormous waste from procurement, especially in the NHS. They waste 3 billion every year on wasteful procurement on things like pens and toilet paper. It's like 200 million on 20 million on biscuits for local governments.
What?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
like HS2 could end up costing up to 200 billion. Why? Maglev, there was one in particular that was railroaded. When all the proposals for the new network from trains and HS2 was proposed, there was a maglev idea as well. If you look at all the maglev proposals that work around the world, not only are they vastly faster, they're vastly cheaper to make, but they also cost up to a quarter of the price. Now, why do you think such things are not being enacted, and they're going to the old domestic way of doing things with slight upgrades that cost a ridiculous amount of money?
Probably, for me, you're probably wrong, but it's not the right gang or mafia that is running that other organisation you're talking about. It's not feeding the money into the right hands.
There's like about 2 billion a year is spent on lobbying. which is nothing more than bribery.
Mm.
That must be outlawed.
Mm.
We must get a real fix on the waste. I mean, imagine what you could do with 170 billion in extra spending. You put Robin Hood tax up to 0.016% on over-the-counter derivatives and speculative trading. It raises up to 100 billion. There's a very specific reason why they never tell anyone you about this. I mean, imagine when you can do 170 billion, 250 billion. When you can give, just the standardised waste alone is enough. It's actually more than enough to give every single person earning £50,000 a year or less zero income tax. I mean, imagine what you could do with that.
You know,
life
changing.
Yeah, which is why, I mean, you have is it 1 in 5 children are in poverty now. It's like 15 million of the UK population, something ridiculously stupid. And it's just getting worse and worse. And
But yet we've got an irrational immigration.
Yeah.
But yet we've got problems.
No.
And Europe, most of Europe will be the same. I don't think we're exclusive for that. For me, I find it very weird, Tom, that you've got a system where you've got one homeless person that lives on the street but will let 10 people in.
Yeah.
What's going on there? It just does not make sense to the layman, you know. I don't know whether you can make sense of that, but this is the political tricks that they put you under. And then they actually convince the population that that's a good idea to do it. So then when you go out to a march and protest against that, you know, irrational frigging migration flow, hold on, you're racist?
Yeah.
Why has that happened, Tom? What's happened where common sense can't see economically why that's really wrong?
Well, you'll always see this, you'll go back to the left-right paradigm.
Mm.
The left predominantly, and historically, and without a shadow of a doubt, they are very pro-immigration, whereas the traditional conservative right will be, yes, we can have immigration, but it must be on a limited, controlled basis. We can ignore the idiots who go, let's throw them all out and shut the borders. It's just stupid. We propose that unless it's very, very urgent and there's no other alternative, that we shouldn't let any other migrants in apart from economic migrants.
Mm.
Because yes, I understand the vast majority of the country want a strict reduction in migration, but also economically we're very reliant on economic migrants.
Yeah, and always have been for generations, haven't we?
That can't change like straight away.
Yes.
However, there is a way forward. Now, if you were to take all the people, by cutting out all the waste and all the corruption and everything, I spoke about 170 billion. Not only could you give everyone earning £20,000 a year zero income tax, you could close the corporation loopholes and use that as a tax subsidy on small businesses, which would raise a lot of people out of poverty and actually start rebuilding the middle class, which is where, as you'll know, economically society produces all the wealth. And that's how you start the wealth inequality.
Sure.
Which is now, I think it's around 60% is owned by the top 1%.
But this goes back to the left or right thing again. That for me, you've just eloquently laid that out, made it, put it in good layman's terms. These are professional politicians, career politicians that have worked this out. Now, in order for them to carry on what they're doing and the way they're doing it, it's nothing more than deceitful for them not to at least consider these proposals. When you think of the prosperity that could bring to a population of people and the happiness and, just the general well-being of families up and down the country, to be relieved financially of that. And the fact that they won't consider it, they would rather keep you in this left-right paradigm, which means a certain amount of, suffering. Damage. Yes, exactly. How do we make people realise that this is not a left-right issue? This is a public issue, person issue.
It's very simple. like the things I've just raised,
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason why none of them, from the left to the right, have brought them up.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very specific reason. Not even the right really talk about this. The whole point of like mass immigration is not only to weaken the traditional power structures, but also the traditional liberal left and the even higher international order of liberal elitism. They all have to produce, they have to divide their core voting blocks and all additional newcomers in as many ways as they can, because it's the victim mentality. The more victims you can do, the more you can group them all together and go, there's your enemy on the right.
Yeah, I'll look after you,
Yeah.
just keep voting for me.
But this has been going on so long now, we're at the point where they're having to divide them further and further up and push these radical changes of millions from Africa and the Middle East just to try and boost their voting figures, because the whole paradigm is shifted, Europe-wide. And you're going to see this year there's going to be a lot more movement on that. And next year is going to be enormous. Once you understand the mechanism and the reasons why they've done it, then you can start to understand and ask the real question: why? Why would the right not be bringing this up? Why would the left allow it? Could it be because the controlled opposition on either side doesn't care? Why is this not only here but in the United States and all across Europe? It's almost as if they're deindustrialising the West and cutting everything to do with freedom, small government, and just raising it to more and more totalitarian levels, which are largely left-leaning governments. So it's not like the same argument they're framing that, it's just the right and fascism. No, it's both. Because they are both the same. They just speak a different tone, but the actions are always the same. Which is why you'll see anything that threatens the size or power of the government, or if they have a monarchy, you'll notice, and you can look at this up, they always vote to safeguard those things. They'll all come together on those issues. But then you go, we waste 170 billion, can't we do something about that? Crickets. Because they don't care. That's the whole agenda they've been trying to carry out. And it's got to the point now, it's a complete tick. But we can't have complete open borders, and we can't have zero net migration. So you have to come to meet in the middle and go, alright, we must have economic migration. We don't really need the rest, unless, like I said, unless it's something absolutely massive, and there's no reason, there's some magical reason why they can't be sort of supported in another place, with financial aid or something. And then you can systematically take all the money that you've cut from all the waste, and then do a massive nationwide jobs program and rebuilding our infrastructure and our economy. Our economy is 80% service sector. It's absurd. That's like, I don't understand why no one notices when you watch the BBC News or Sky and talk about Saudi Arabia or Russia. They're all dependent on oil and gas, and if something happens, and that's them done. Yeah, but we're relying on the service sector overwhelmingly. Well, what happens when machines and automation continues to grow and it's getting faster and faster and faster? You have self-serving shops, bars, you name it. And it's not going to be very long before they have robotic prisons, probably. These things must be understood, and it really doesn't take 5 minutes to understand them. So there's really no excuse. No one is that busy, including me.
Well, because of the left-right, the veil that's been placed over all of us, like the Wizard of Oz almost, this facade, we've all bought into it, haven't we, as individuals, where it's far better just to look after yourself and look after your family and turn away from what's going on. We're all switching away from the community spirit in societies and building each other up as individuals. We are being trained, socially engineered to sort yourself out. Don't matter if that guy's getting beat up there, you know what? The chances are it's better if I probably film it and upload it rather than help him.
Yeah.
We are training to turn on each other.
Yeah.
When in reality, you know, we are two sentient beings in this building now. The power that we've got, the connection we've got, they cannot touch us if we truly align. And that's what I really buy into. And when I hear people like yourself that are switched on, articulate, eloquent, but yet totally understand that and even go way beyond where I'm at with it, I love it. I get sort of sound like Kevin Keegan there. I love it. I love it. I know, yeah. But you know, it's what gets me going, because I would rather be in the company of someone like yourself, Tom, that is aligned, astute, awake, and at least has got a way of trying to get out of it, rather than just someone who is in the system, pissed off and just reacting to what, because you're playing to it. You are being that pawn.
The irony is like on the right, especially. Generally far right. They talk about this all the time. The left are always triggered, which is largely true. You know, they introduced a lot of this whole I'm offended sort of culture and political correctness and everything. But by reacting in the same way to these things that the left are pushing for their own, you know, reasons, by turning around and going, Islam this, Islam that, and we must, send them all back and all this stupid crap. That's doing exactly the same as they're doing. You're being triggered and you're reacting completely irrationally and emotionally. Yeah,
because you've existed within this echo chamber that's brought that kind of level out of you.
If you want to understand, how to deal with the problem of Islam, which isn't really a problem if you understand it. So Christianity has got over 2,000 denominations. For anyone who don't understand what denomination is, it means interpretation of how you read it and what you believe. Islam has over 1,000. Now, where the most urgent issues to do with Sharia law, for security reasons, the burqa, terrorism, which everyone agrees must end. Now, where do all these stem from? Wahhabi Salafism. If you go and, this is the way the right can win it, ironically. They only have to go and cite the establishment left and the over 10,000 articles from the last 20 years talking about this very thing, which all this stems from.
Appeasing to it.
Yeah. All they have to do is cite that. Ignore the stupid extreme rhetoric. Focus on what the overwhelming majority, the 90% of the problem stem from. I mean, you got all the mosques in this country, right? 6%, only 6% in a study showed that there were Wahhabi Salafists. Yet over 50%, and the Muslim faith schools, over 50% have the Wahhabi literature in. Now, is it a case of, where does the Wahhabi ideology come from? Saudi Arabia. Who's best friends and sells arms to Saudi Arabia?
Ooh,
the establishment.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's Labour, doesn't matter if it's
We can't wait to bow to them, mate.
Yeah.
You've seen the photos.
They've both done it under Blair, under Brown, under Cameron, under May. That tells you everything you need to know, supported by the Lib Dems as well. And UKIP are nothing more than a Tory pressure group.
Is it just arms?
Well, it's not just arms, it's ideology as well.
No, I mean the reason as in because they spend a lot of money with us. Is it just that, in your opinion, or is there more to? I mean, it's obviously more to it, but what do you think in a nutshell? The uber relationship we've got with Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Bahrain and all these other Middle Eastern well-rich oil countries.
I mean, you can essentially track everything that's happened since the early 90s to do with the Middle East rich, terrorism and all of that. You can track it back to Zbigniew Brzezinski's grand chessboard And then the year before 9/11, the PNAC document, which is the Project for a New American Century, where it talked about an American empire that will last the next century. But it would be a very long struggle, absent from some catalysing event like a new Pearl Harbor. And of course, tragically, a year later, 9/11 happened. It was the new Pearl Harbor. And that served as a catalyst to then funnel through the rat lines to all these groups of militants in the Middle East and across Africa to then rise up and cause all these problems for the West to then go in and solve, which have done nothing but make it even worse. Until Trump. And there's all but beaten ISIS now. And the core reason is to basically get us, well, if you think of Britain, France, Germany, the US, up until recently, especially with the US, they're all controlled puppets, serving the order. Now if you're going to try and take over the world, you do it through the control of money, the central banks, which there were very few that didn't have the same owners in central banks around the world. You had those that wouldn't go along with the agenda. So you had like Iraqi oil, you wouldn't sell, Libya, and he was trying to push the gold dinar.
He was trying to build up Africa, wasn't
it? Would have made an enormous threat, and it would have been the biggest industrial powerhouse with a gold-backed dinar within 2 years, and completely bankrupted the West. We have Syria, and they refused to put the pipelines at rock-bottom prices because they wanted better.
So we all wonder why these wars generate. When you scratch beneath the surface, it's normally business that's really brought
it's always
forward.
Interest, whether it's minerals, whether it's oil, whether it's natural gas and energy, whatever the case is, or in the case of Gaddafi mainly, is to do with the financial economic threat he was proposing. He just wouldn't let it lie. So they funded these groups, and they're designed to cause absolute mayhem. Our former Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook, spoke about Al Qaeda, for example, as being nothing more than a list of Mujahideen fighters in a database, which is true. And they've used this since the 80s, when they Operation Gladio throughout Europe, and they used those same jihadis that were training to fight the Soviets in the late 80s in Bosnia. You can track it all the way. There's no surprise to anyone who knows who spent even 20 minutes researching.
Yeah. The funding and training has come from us, the West.
Exactly. ISIS, al-Baghdadi was in a US prison, released. John McCain, who's just recently died, is an absolute murderous traitor. Is responsible largely for the deaths of up to 3,000 Americans.
Well, he's been faulted with actual terrorists as well, hasn't
he? Yeah, he was pictured with al-Baghdadi, other ISIS, and al-Nusra, which was just al-Qaeda in Iraq, frontmen, smiling away, just before the war.
Oh, these are moderates, these are moderates.
And then they were doing all, you have to go on Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever, and go look up all these airdrops, and there are hundreds of them that accidentally fell into the hands, and all these moderate forces that didn't exist. And it's always the same narrative. In Libya, for example, they say, oh no, they're Libyan moderates, revolutionaries, and then you start seeing like Al Qaeda and all of this, and they're just like, nothing to see here, don't worry, and then they report it months after they've got their result, and go, and Al Qaeda are here now, we're going to do something about it.
You could tell that was a facade when it actually happened for me, mate, to be honest with you. Oh, we're running on the 25-minute mark, probably just enough time to get this point out, and then we'll cut for another segment if you want.
Yeah.
What made me wake up and see, as well as other things, the likelihood that you would allow a train or a convoy of new, what you would say, westernized flatback trucks, all with emblems of ISIS, of various different sects of Al Qaeda, ISIS, all kind of merging together. The flags was the first thing that I noticed that were kind of the same, so it kind of tied them both. Would you allow a convoy of like 6 miles long running through Iraq with all gun turrets on the back of the... When you've got the technology that the West has got in terms of satellites, in terms of weapons that are out of our airspace that could actually come in and do things. So for them to allow that to happen, that set a precedent that this is a paid mafia that is instilling fear on the West, that has been funding and trained.
It's racketeering and corruption,
without a
highest
doubt.
order. That's, has led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people yet again. Yet another example of the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no... just look at the footage of all those oil tankers that were taking all the oil from the northern Syrian fields and running it up into Turkey. And of course, all that was...
Turkey was selling it.
Yeah, it was,
so why Turkey
it's the
done?
president's son. The president's son was running it for a state-owned business. And it tells you everything. Why
He was giving ISIS medical services as well once, on the border and whatnot.
And then sending them back through. Giving them safe
It's all
passage
there.
all in the south of Turkey. Yeah. All the way up to the capital.
So what do you do as an individual when you realise this, and then you've got your media telling them that, well, ISIS is an organic thing that's been brought about because we hate Muslims?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, however important all of these subjects are, and to understand them so we can deal with them, it goes back to the same central point. Unless we have a mechanism to be able to deliver them, this whole conversation is completely pointless.
Mm-hmm.
So you must understand that, and then most importantly, get involved. Whether it just be, a couple of quid to help with operations, whether it be you want to start digging, start researching, start sharing, whether you want an active role in any one of the parties, whatever the case is, whatever you can do, whatever little time or little money you have, just help. Help try and deliver us the mechanism to be able to effect change and stop all this madness, all this pain and suffering. Because we don't have a choice anymore.
We shall leave it there, mate, because we are now on just under 28 minutes, but that's section 2. A very riveting conversation with Tom. Tom is leader of the People's Revolutionary Party, which, same again, I feel like I've got to run through them all, is running closely aligned with Aslan's army and also Britain's British fight as well. So the collaborative efforts that are going through all professional systems, honestly, these guys are serious. And the enthusiasm they've got, honestly, it's really infectious as well. So it's great to be in the company and great to listen to the ideas. And it's so refreshing, guys. It really is so refreshing. So this is Red Pill Phil. There's going to be another section to come. I hope you're enjoying what's coming up. Like and subscribe if you do like what's coming up. And we will give plenty of details in the next section of how, if they want to contact you, what's the best way to kind of join and support what you're doing as well. So this is Red Pill Phil. Like and subscribe. I love you all, even the pissing haters.